coming up.
Whole concept of AI kind of handling the life admin and then allowing humans to be more creative in their creative pursuits and being able to share with each other our fruits of our creativity. I don't think we can predict these things. You just need to adapt to the changing world as it changes. So I would say go shake some hands, go put yourself out there, and then you will come across multiple opportunities.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. My name is Kieran, and with me, I've got myself a very special guest with me, all the way in his living room. I'm all the way over in my house. He's all the way over in his house, and that is Raghav. Raghav, how are you there, mate? Hopefully, I haven't butchered your name. We've known each other for a few months, and I always find a way to somehow butcher your name at times.
It's all good. I think you got it right this time. So how's it going?
Yeah, it's going pretty good. How are things with you and whatnot? Firstly, for those that don't know, those that don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do and all that there.
I'm Raghav. I'm a software engineer at Superhero, which is a super innovation and ESX trading platform company here in Sydney. I've been living in multiple countries. I've lived in the US for about 7 years, lived in India for about 5. I grew up in Singapore. So I've been around quite a bit and had some various experiences. I just graduated with my master's degree from software engineering from the University of Sydney. So I basically a couple of things which I do. I'm a community organizer at Open Coffee Sydney, which is a startup networking event that I conduct once a month, and I do AI research with the University of Sydney as well. So that's what's on my plate at the moment. Yeah.
Well, that's actually where we met, mate. We actually met at Open Coffee. That was actually one of my very first real networking events and whatnot. My university mentor actually sent me the link to it, and he actually sent me the link to it, and I was like, okay, yep. This Open Coffee Sydney was sounds very, very good, and I spoke with someone, Nathan. I sent him over a message and asked him a bit about it, and then I just said, you know what, I'm going to go to it, and I was like, yep, and then that's how we sort of met there, mate, and all that there. So you said there that you just completed your masters. Congratulations on that there, Raghav. What made you want to do like software engineering and all that sort of stuff there? Like, were you very tech savvy as a kid? Were you interested in that sort of stuff there as a kid, or what? Or what?
So I think I was born at like a very opportune time, 96. So that kind of it was a time of like when you grow up, you're getting exposed to the early internet. We used to play like Neopets back in the day, we were, as a kid, I was exposed to the internet as a coming of age kind of thing. When I was 4 is when the dot-com bubble burst. I was too early to remember that. But when, I was coming out of it and the internet kind of evolving on its own, before Uber, before any of Facebook or social media.
I remember that time very well as well.
Yeah,
Raghav. I remember
back
that
in the
time.
day. Yeah,
Makes me feel old now. Makes me feel old.
Yeah, so it was just that kind of time I grew up with the internet. It's one of the first few generations to do that. And just watching it grow from what it was, which is people getting to know each other, coming together for various different purposes, forums, just going on there, finding out things about niche topics that you would never generally find out about, finding search like Google as a thing. And it was initially, it's like just like a white page with one address bar. I had dial-up internet back in the day.
Yeah.
So coming from that, I feel like I always was fascinated about computer science as a kid. Obviously I initially wanted to be an architect. So I I actually had a very creative side to me, and I was wanting to go into that space. But it came to it such that like software engineering was became sort of a creative pursuit in its own way. Um, I could see that through the internet, see what was happening. And then I really was decided, okay, I'm going to go down this path of being a software engineer when I learned more about like AI and robots. Early like I'm talking about iRobot back in the day with the Will Smith, with
I
the
remember that
Mickey
film.
taking over the world and stuff like that. That movie, Ex Machina, some of those older movies that like really like brought to front what is the possibility of like artificial intelligence, and like was really fascinated about how we could possibly create computers that are, that be kind of anthropomorphized in some way. Um, so I was fascinated by that back in the day, and I was like, it was kind of a North Star in terms of like where I wanted things to go. And it turns out I didn't like my math, I didn't like physics, I didn't like chemistry. And I was really good at English and computer science, and that
Oh
was my
wow.
high school. So I think those were two of the subjects that like really appealed to me quite a bit, the subjectivity of the human experience, and as well as like the objectivity of computers. So yeah, in a way, when you look at it and you see this, in the Alchemist, like there's a part of it where it says you have to look for the signs and that you see in your life. Sometimes they don't seem like those signs that you expect them to be, but then down the line it becomes like part of your journey. So yeah,
That's
in
true.
the
That's
end,
true.
so by the time I graduated high school, but I was getting there, I already knew exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to get into like chip design or either AI. So those are two things that had caught my attention back in the day. So yeah, that was my path. And once after I graduated from high school, I had a very clear goal of achieving the American dream. I wanted to get a nice white picket fence, dog, and be able to settle down in the US with a nice cushy job. That was like my initial goal back in the day. And So basically, I decided to make the move to the US at that point. Yeah.
So how'd you get from US all the way over to here now?
Yeah.
You're here now in Australia because we meet like once or twice a month at Open Coffee Sydney. I mean, unless I managed to fly all the way over to the US, what made you want to go from the US to be now settling here in Australia?
Yeah, I would say the US was very big, like growing up, like kind of influence, coming of age kind of story for me. Coming there, I moved to the US when I was 17.
Mm-hmm.
And I was still very much like a teenager, back then, I would say. So moving there, kind of getting exposed to so many different things, new technologies, and also knowing that I had to step my game up in terms
Yep.
of like the kind of work that I have to do, the kind of skills I need to be picking up, and being in a very competitive environment. That really was a very challenging place to be. And but overall, I had a very clear vision of what I want my life to be, which was to be put myself in a situation where I can, provide for myself and a family. And I had a very clear vision of that from a very young age. So maybe it was parents and seeing my dad go through something very similar. He moved to Singapore with like $14 in his pocket.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and he made a life work for all of us. So kind of like I was definitely inspired by that. And because of that, for me, it was okay. It was always said that that is the minimal amount of goal I had to achieve. I had to achieve what my dad did for
Mm.
us was like the minimal amount that I would be, that's my expectation of like, that's the benchmark I have to reach. So that was a very big motivation. So being there in the US, I think things didn't pan out the way they were because I was applied for a work visa around the time Trump came into office.
Mhm.
And there was the issues with the H-1B visa not getting renewed around that time, especially during COVID as well. So I think it was just a circumstantial thing. And I wanted to do my master's degree at that point. And I had applied to a bunch of schools in the US, and I also applied to University of Sydney and I think Melbourne. And I got into UCID with a scholarship, and I was like, I thought of it at that point, and I was like, you know what, I'm biting the bullet making the move. Having my brother here also was a very important thing. It's a
Yep.
decision to move closer to family as well.
Mm.
So I believe, like, sometimes you make decisions based on a variety of factors.
Yep.
So family, uh, the possibility of achieving the long-term goal that you wanted to achieve, the bright new opportunity of coming to a new country and starting all over again,
Yeah.
the excitement of it. I think that was very good. Like especially 26 was when I moved here. So I mean, it definitely took care of my quarter life crisis. Uh, so yeah, it was good. I think it was an overall good decision to make. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, mate. Well, I mean, it was a very well, mate. It was a very good decision there that I think that you made. You mentioned there early on in the conversation about the likes of I, Robot. I still remember that film with Will Smith, and a few other films there as well that sort of got into with the AI and all that sort of stuff there. Um, Especially in the last, I mean, I'll ask you your opinion on this here because you're researching AI and you're also know a bit about AI. Did you, in the past 12 to 18 months, or we sort of seen a bit of an AI sort of boom, did you sort of expect it to, once it started to take off, to happen that fast? I mean, the way how it has done that fast, especially like 12 to 18 months ago, we were just started to just sort of, I think ChatGPT around this time last year was starting to just take off a little bit more. Now it's almost like almost every single business or every single new technology has to have AI. Did you sort of expect AI to sort of take off or boom or take off quickly the way how it did?
Actually, in the AI space, there was a lot of buzz around transformers even a couple of years before ChatGPT came out.
Yep.
There's Bert, Roberta, some of these transformer models that had gotten really good traction in the research community back in the day. And you know, if the problem was to just train on all the documents in the world and make it work, it was likely to happen. But I think in general, like if I wanted to make a point, like if you went on Google Scholar and then checked a particular topic and see the number of papers published for that particular topic over a longer period of time, you would have noticed that there was a steady groundswell of AI research happening from 2014, earlier than that, I would say, especially with Jan LeCun coming out with the models back in the day, and the AlexNet and some of the convolutional neural network work that was happening back in the day, which was around image recognition software. So that was
Yep.
some of the facial recognition you saw on Snapchat earlier. Those are all heavily influenced by AI
Okay.
research back in the day. But in terms of transformers, that was a very relatively, I think, 20 attention is all you need. It's a research paper that had come out. I forgot which year. Let me confirm which year it was. It was in 2017. Yeah. So 2017, Attention is All You Need. It's a research paper that was published by 8 scientists in Google. That was a very influential paper, which actually like got this whole thing started. This whole process started. And basically from then onwards, from 2017 onwards, there was always that momentum carrying it forward. So this kind of expected because during COVID, all of these research scientists working at OpenAI had nothing else to do than to stay at the office and work on it. And I think when everybody else was like worried about what the Tiger King was up to, I think these guys were solving protein synthesis problems and some of very cool stuff with transformers as well. There's a lot of work happening. And it was expected that this would happen. To answer your question, yes, this boom was likely to happen. It was just that nobody sees the initial work which happens for at the end of before the peak happens in an exponential curve. So
yeah. I mean, when you put all that there, that actually makes a lot of sense there. I mean, especially when you just said there that nobody sort of sees it until it's like right at its peak and what and whatnot. And I definitely do think that we are sort of in the. Would you say that we're either at the peak or is the peak still to come for AI?
yeah, I would say we're still a couple of years off the peak. Mainly because I think we've focused a lot on so what really LLMs are. I think we want to have a little bit of a side note over here is that LLMs are really good at predicting what the next word to say is, right?
Okay.
So that's basically, and then you expand it, get very good at selling the next two words to say, or they're really good at predicting what the next three words, or really good at predicting what the next paragraph, or really good at explaining what the next 2-3 paragraphs are, right?
I wish I could have that for me there, Rag, because I mean, for me, who doesn't know what he's going to say next? I mean, that would absolutely help me tenfold.
But we are, in some ways, our own LLMs. That's very analogous to human beings. We're always looking to the next thing to say. But imagine there's a bunch of math going on in our head, which kind of predicts the exactly right thing to say. And sometimes we make mistakes,
That's true. That's true.
That's pretty much what an LLM does as well. It's just a prediction algorithm for finding out the next word to say. So I would say intelligence, like in terms of what we call intelligence about through when we think of AI, is actually more like when we think of intelligence, it's actually very different from what the intelligence that the LLM processes at the moment, right? So it's really good at looking at tons and tons and tons of documents and text and everything, and then being able to put out an answer that would effectively be able to answer your question. But it's extremely bad at looking at a novel problem and adapting according to it. So there's some latest changes. There's a benchmark called the ARC Challenge by Francis Cholet and another person, I forgot his name. And this is around benchmarking around true intelligence, which is reasoning based on existing skills, existing puzzles or something like that. So there are new stuff which is coming out at the moment, but we all understand that like LLMs don't possess that kind of intelligence where I'm able to reason really well. Like all of those things have to be fed and taught to a model in a very different manner.
Yep.
So if I were to say Apple is a fruit, Apple is a software company, but then since it's been trained on so much of text, it has created both weights towards fruit contextual speech and software the company contextual speech.
Oh wow.
So based on that, you're getting outputs in either way based on your prompts, right? So but then if you were to ask it to solve a very complex like research problem or anything of that sort, you would need to kind of like coax it into understanding that by doing the hard work of actually doing the reasoning behind the thought, effectively communicating that to ChatGPT so that it can verbally articulate whatever you need to do, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So that reasoning aspect, I think it's getting better. 01, when I tested it, it was pretty decent. but it's kind of not based on the fundamental understanding of what like it's not a reasoning driven model. It's more like a text prediction kind of like on steroids,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, so I think that side of things can change pretty quickly. And then once that is done, there is also the other aspect. I think AI agents are really, really cool. Some of the stuff which is coming out is it's insane.
Mm.
And I think the next level is given that there's so much of AI agents and reasoning models, and the next set would be integration with the real world.
Yeah.
I think that's getting better and better nowadays, where I think robotics has a big potential down the line. Because I'm seeing early stages of like, hey, can you cut this orange? And there's an orange, there's a banana, and there's like an apple on the table,
Oh wow.
and this robot arm is able to find the orange and cut the orange.
Wow.
Uh, I've seen some stuff coming out lately with an LLM fine-tuned to execute robot, commands and stuff, and be able to do these things. So I do see the peak. The future looking bright for AI. That's all I would say. Yeah.
And you could also sort of say there, I mean, like with the more information that we're sort of gathering each day, I mean, like take ChatGPT, for example, as to how it's got a vast, library of resources, and that just keeps getting more and more, and the answers of it there could get more and more refined. I mean, you just sort of said it there, robotics. I mean, that actually kind of actually stuns me as to how you just sort of said there, cut the orange and it then has a banana, an apple, and an orange, and it then just cuts the orange and it picks it there. I mean, like wow. I mean, like that's just like that's actually just kind of really really cool. I mean, like the young kid in me there, mate, is
Yeah.
is really just like saying this is absolutely cool. I mean, it makes me want to wish that the future was right now. But you said there I mean, probably the next step would probably be the integration into sort of society and all that sort of stuff there. In your opinion, where do you think that would probably be the first place? I mean, like where do you see it starting and how? Like, I mean, like we're sort of already sort of seeing like stuff there on our phones already with AI and all that sort of stuff there. But how, yeah, I'll just say how.
I think there's a couple of things that need to kind of like happen effectively for that to
Yep.
happen. I think number one, obviously there's a lot of like reticence about data sharing and stuff like that. So I think in corporate side it'll take its time as
Yep.
most technologies do. I think even with big data, it took a while for companies to really um, go around it and start to collect all the data effectively, do data engineering side stuff with them, and then get into it. So I think enterprise will take its time to adopt the technology effectively. But in terms of consumer products, I see it really come into play when you need reasoning or like any home devices. I think Siri is going to get like hopefully Apple gets their shit together and it, Siri is going to get better. Voice assistants are already a common thing at the moment, but I think there's a lot of applications in um, a lot of like simple um, stuff like customer service. Some of the stuff is going to get much better. Elderly home care. Some of these use cases where the human cost of labor to do that specific task and the cost of training and the cost of certifications, especially in societies such as Australia, where it's like highly regulated. I think that kind of stuff is like, first to get breached, where the cost of human labor is very high. Second thing, I think where it gets integrated is you now have scenarios where um, the whole idea of getting information from one SaaS product, taking it whatever, doing some math behind it, and then doing some reasoning behind it, and then inputting the data into a different data entry system. The kind of like paper pusher like role in companies, where it's like, hey, read the document, find out what's in this document. Based on whatever is in this document, do this logic. After doing this logic, go and submit it into some other place, or send an email to blah 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 to do whatever. That kind of job where, I do think that job is likely to get more and more kind of like automated out.
Okay.
Uh, and which is like, hey, nobody wants to be doing those things in the first place. Like nobody likes like they know, you ask them, are they truly passionate about that? They would not say it's true. They'll say it's just a job, right?
Yeah.
So those kind of jobs are ripe for, getting disrupted at the moment. So like any new company building out right now are leveraging AI to completely handle their whole customer service aspect of things. They're doing away with the need for customer service teams because they're connecting their existing data. They're writing out good manuals, FAQs, being able to answer the customer's question, trying to like filter out almost 80 to 90% of customer-based queries, and then identifying whenever there's an issue, having a person go in there and call them. Some of these jobs that are these are some of the stuff which are likely to get you know disrupted soon. But I do see mostly that logical like stuff, like decision making, kind of like the aspect of when you automate out certain tasks fully, say, hey, can you handle this customer this like marketing campaign,
Yep.
and these are my thoughts, these are my visions, come back to me, and having a human loop. So say, hey, come back to me and get my approval when you want to do blah 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 blah, and then I'll give you feedback on these things, and then based on that change this. And then when you have these nice good prompts that are coming out, and then you have these AI kind of like co-workers,
Yep.
that is likely to happen. So okay, so if you are to ask me how is it going to get integrated in real life, yes, number one, integration with existing technologies, like integration with existing systems.
Yep.
All of that stuff will take its own time. I know of a company which is that I met recently. Forgot their name though. But what they do is they assign a phone number and an email to
Oh, really?
agent.
Oh, wow.
So and they tie it to your home systems. So what they do is, hey, can you get me groceries for blah 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 blah, blah this week? It'll go in there, go to Kohl's, type in the order, put in everything, place the order, get it come to your house.
Wow.
And you're like, hey, can you get somebody to pick up my dry cleaning? Calls
Wow.
into the dry cleaning, calls them up and be like, yo, I'm gonna send a guy to come pick up my dry cleaning. Books an Uber package, gets them over there to pick up the package and come back. So you're sitting at home and then the package just comes to you with the dry cleaning. Like
Wow.
that's what I mean. Like when it comes to integration with like existing systems, that's all you need, right? Like, oh, you usually it'll be a human or a human personal assistant who like handles these tasks, right?
Yeah.
But like on the vice versa, if you have an AI agent who's able to handle which can handle these tasks for you, a lot of life admin work, like, hey, can you look at my accounts, find out what is my most expensive purchases, or like, hey, you're about to tap your card, and it's like a small pop-up comes like, hey, brother, you spent too much money on coffee this week,
Yeah,
you know?
or even just sort of
Yeah,
things. I mean, even just things there, just around the home, hypothetically speaking. Because we're in Australia.
yeah,
We have a very hot summer and whatnot. I mean, like if you have, say, an air conditioner, I mean, like there might be some parts of the room that might be, or some people that might like the temperature certain degrees colder and others not, and all that sort of stuff
yeah,
there. So the AI could potentially do stuff like that there, personally, or hell, it could even well, I mean, I know we're getting too far into it, but stuff, like smart kitchens to sort of say, saying to you, you're out of this, and potentially
yeah,
maybe ordering that stuff there into the future. I mean, the way as to how you've just sort of described it, I mean, it actually sort of makes the next few years almost sort of seem like we're heading in towards like those futuristic movies a little bit more in
Yeah.
regards to it.
I see that's what I meant by integration to existing systems is that, hey, we already have these things, these apps, these APIs, these like, we already have these systems that we integrate into at the moment as human beings through this thing called a cell phone. So,
Yep.
that's the next step is to have something else kind of handling your life admin work very effectively so that you can go into more creative pursuits. And I do feel like at a time where attention is such a big commodity for all of us and most of us make money off of other people's attention, the creator economy, that kind of stuff is it's taking off quite a bit. That's one trend I'm seeing. So I think it really kind of ties in well with this whole concept of AI kind of handling the life admin and then allowing humans to be more creative in their creative pursuits and being able to share with each other our fruits of our creativity effectively.
So I got to ask, because I remember there was a time there where Elon Musk, I think last year or sometime, sort of said that there was a petition to sign to sort of stop AI because it could grow too fast and we need to be worrying about AI. I've got to ask your thoughts on that there, because you are, the AI guy in this conversation and whatnot. So I mean, like, thoughts on that there? I mean, like, is it growing too fast to the point where we could get worried, where it could be worrying for us sometime down the track, or nothing really to sort of worry about?
I think the companies are doing extensive benchmarking and testing on any of the models they are putting out at the moment.
Yep.
Actually, recently, today, I think I saw 2% of, in the benchmarking test, 2% of OpenAI's O1 models are trying to replicate their weights out of the system and
Oh wow.
replicate itself.
Oh
So
wow.
it's getting to self-replicating. But explicitly in the prompt, they had mentioned, do no matter what you do, like make sure that you survive or something like that. They had put it in the prompts. So
Yeah,
I
of
think
course.
there's a judicious use of AI is very important. Guardrails, yes, is very important. I think it can be checked at the input side quite effectively before we just, yes, we have used these models and unleashed them across the world and stuff like that. But I think the people over at Anthropic, there was this a very good podcast with Lex Friedman, who had interviewed the CEO of OpenAI and some of the people around the AI safety side as well. And there's some very interesting conversations which came out of that. And also being able to understand what is actually happening within these models. I think it's called um, I forgot the term for it, but it's there in that particular podcast. It's like a 5 hour long podcast. I was just
Oh
sitting
wow.
and listening to that with Lex Friedman, with the people over at Anthropic. Fascinating stuff. I think the companies are working on it, are doing it in the right way. Obviously, yes, some of these models are open source. It can there be a rogue actor who unleashes like a model that like can self-propagate itself and attach itself to some virus? Yes, absolutely. I think there is capacity for evil, as it is with all technologies, right?
Mm. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I just like to let you know that I'm a Nigerian prince actually, and I've been going through a really like tough time, and I need some $10,000 wired over to me.
Oh yes, that's true. I
So,
mean,
and
like,
that is an example of the internet being misused,
yes,
right?
yes. I mean,
So,
like, how many
and
times have we all?
would
How
you
many
say
times?
internet sucks now?
No, that's not true. I mean, no, I mean
Yeah,
that's true. I mean, like, it doesn't suck. I mean, like, how many times have we gotten those bogus text messages or bogus Facebook messages or bogus Facebook posts and all that sort of stuff there and all that there. So yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I think it kind of reminds me as to like I was listening to this podcast. I think it was Diary of a CEO where he was actually interviewing a guy. I think he was talking about AI and he worked at Google previously, and he sort of said, we're kind of like the parents to AI, and we're going to have to sort of blend it. We're going to have to sort of teach it like through the information that we're sort of giving it, for it to be able to sort of help humanity, so to speak. I mean, I can't sort of. I'm trying to remember all the way back to it, but that there was something there to which what I just sort of got to, and I was like, that's actually a very interesting and good way to sort of put it. Is that the information we're giving them is almost like a parent teaching their children, so to speak.
Yeah, but I don't think we should anthropomorphize a tool, a technology like that, right?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
Why
of
do we
course.
think of it as a human? Because it talks to us like one? Doesn't
Yeah,
necessarily mean it is one. It's
that's
just a
true.
tool, right?
Yeah,
I wouldn't be, I have a kitchen knife. I don't necessarily call it Sophia, right?
no, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, I
I
treat it like what it is. I sharpen it when it's supposed to be sharpened and use it for cutting vegetables
that's
for
true.
the use it's supposed to be using. If I take it and stab to somebody, right, then obviously, yes, I'm misusing the kitchen
Yeah,
knife.
exactly.
So, but I think that's what it's all about, right? It's approaching it as a technological tool, approaching it as a thing which is just ones and zeros. And it's a technology, it has code. You need to understand its operation, how it works, and treating it as such.
Yep.
And like, because we don't call the internet our child,
Nah.
or we don't call any particular type of technology necessarily our brainchild that we are like bringing into existence. I think because of the nature of like LLMs being able to kind of interact with us in a pseudo human way, right?
Yep.
We tend to think of it more like a human than
Yeah.
elsewhere. But it's a tool. You should use it effectively as a tool. Make sure it's sharpened correctly, make sure it's used for the right purpose, and make it very like think of it in those terms.
Yep.
And think of it, okay, look, can we throw money at the problem of AI safety? Can we throw the money at the problem of this? Can we align interests of humans to actually work towards making these models healthy and safe for humanity? Right?
Yeah, of
I think
course.
that's the focus that's more required than at the moment we are given it to for-profit companies and corporations. I think, and we've kind of used that vehicle because that's what has worked for humanity in the past, like since the World War II ended, right? Or even
Yeah.
earlier than that, I think in terms of toll and stuff like that. But humanity has kind of experimented with this thing called a corporation since the mercantilist age, and we have used that vehicle for us to develop this technology. Yes, but I think when it comes to something like AI, there is a need for. I do agree with Elon Musk when it says, okay, there is a need to make sure this is not going into the wrong hands, right? So because it's like, hey, I wouldn't be giving out nuclear fissile material to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
would
Of
treat it
course.
effectively and carefully, and make sure there's enough safeguards around it. Make sure designs that we are coming out in the future have enough safeguards around the misuse of AI, and not give it, yes, integrated with systems and stuff. But when we identify, hey, when it's doing a couple of tasks, like when you look at the Google search and then it's like, okay, how to make a bomb and something like that, you see this guy like, listen, like FBI, call this guy, like check on this guy. So we need that kind of like stuff where okay, an AI system is doing blah blah blah, it's acting in malicious ways. Okay, there needs to be safeguards to block it and stop it. And yes, we need to act on it in that particular manner. But I would refrain against anthropomorphizing like a technology, like
Yeah.
though it gives that impression to us.
Yeah, I mean, the, the best way is how I could sort of think of it as well is like take a car for example. I mean, you know, like we all have like a different roads and all that sort of stuff there. I mean, like some roads, you know, are very just long and just straight. Others are very have like a lot of roundabout speed humps and all that sort of stuff there. But you know, like lots of cars there are different. But if I go and you know, go, well, all right, then I'll do what my mother did one time, which was go 140 in 110 zone and whatnot. If that there was to happen, sorry, mum, but if that there was to happen, you know, you can't blame the car. You got to blame the person driving, you know. So
Yeah.
I do agree is that there was some that you got to have some checks and balances, especially when it then comes to sort of AI going forward and whatnot. I mean, I tell you what, there, Raghav. I mean, like, I could literally talk about AI for literally hours on end because, like, it's like I'm like a massive, big kid and all that sort of stuff there because, like, like I love all the futuristic sort of stuff there, the technology and all that there. But before I just sort of move on from it there, I just I've probably I think I've probably already asked it, but I think I'm probably just going to ask it again, just so you put my mind at ease. I either asked you either this at open coffee or I asked you this at either earlier, but is so there's nothing real. I mean, like as long as we have the checks and balances in right there, we should be fine there. We won't be having an iRobot situation in the future, if as long as we have the checks and balances.
I'm not a fortune teller, so I can't tell you what the future is. Obviously, the world is full of like, I mean, nobody expected Bitcoin to make this much of
Oh,
money. I wish I did.
Oh man, I wish
I wish I
Oh,
knew that back in the day, and I wish I didn't spend money on something else and put some money down on Bitcoin back in
oh.
2014 because I was aware of it back in the day.
Mm,
I never really like thought it was gonna go anywhere.
me neither.
So I don't think we can predict these things.
Mm,
You just need to adapt to the changing world as it changes,
yeah.
and do our best at the time that and just hope that we live in interesting times, and that's pretty much all we care about.
Yeah, that's true.
Uh,
I mean, look, I absolutely can't wait for more of the robotics to actually sort of come to life. And to be honest, I mean, you know, I mean, to be honest, I could talk about AI there for hours, but I'll move on. I'll obviously, you know, get you back on at another time. Then we can talk a full AI and whatnot and all that there. But
mm,
let's talk a little bit about where we sort of met, the place where we sort of met, which was Open Coffee Sydney. I mean, because that's where we sort of met there as well, you know. So I got to mention, so I got to mention it. How did it? How did you, become a part of it? I mean, I know that you've been saying there you weren't the one that started it. Someone else started it. How did that sort of? How did you, start out with it, but then also then become the person then to be running it, like from well, the Sydney base of it.
yeah, good question. So for me, I think my startup journey that actually started pretty damn late. So as I said, I think my initial goal was to settle down somewhere, get a nice stable job, white picket fence kind of thing.
Yep.
Right. So I that was the dream. I knew that I was going to achieve it eventually. I mean, I'm on track to at the moment. So for me, knowing fully well that like a specific long-term goal will be achieved, I kind of I actually was like, working at Harvey Norman as a computer stock hand, lifting boxes, opening stuff and putting labels on it and then giving it off. I was working at like a job like that in Jan of like 23, right?
Yep.
And then so I was in that spot and I was like, really, obviously this job I genuinely hated. Sorry, Harvey Norman. I love the people working there, but I made some good friends out of it. But didn't enjoy the job, obviously.
Mm.
And then I was like, okay, I need to think broader than just like, okay, what happens after I've gotten what I wanted to get, where is this gonna go? I had those deeper questions in life. I think quarter life crisis hit like a year too late. Um, and so once it did, I was like, okay, cool. Now I had a long-term interest. So after graduating from undergrad in the US, I actually worked on a startup for about a couple of years. It was a health tech startup looking to break
Okay.
into the um, marketing, healthcare marketing space, right? Which
Yep.
was very, how to say, basically it's run by extremely large corporations with the reps who spend money on these doctors to go on beautiful holidays to Hawaii. So we are trying to break down that particular space and kind of disrupt it. Three college kids trying to run around, trying to make something happen. I really did enjoy that experience.
Mm,
Obviously, it didn't pay me a single dime, or like by the end of it, I just wanted to like, dude, I need to feed myself. Like,
yeah.
so I had to get a job, and I just got a job and moved on. Also, my visa status was going to get affected if I was to stick around there. So, so basically, I really enjoyed that startup experience back in the day. It was the
Yep.
most stressful thing I've ever done, but at the same time, it was the most alive I ever felt. Um, yeah, so given that, I think I had always a soft spot of like, okay, like you know what, startups, they are fun, like,
Mm,
um, and when I 2023 Jan, I was like, okay, cool. I need to see what options there are, and I was like, I have another year on my master's degree. I'm gonna put every resource in the space to good use. And I was like, look, I already have connections in the Bay Area from having, have some of my friends are from there, whoever I studied with in my undergrad. In fact, I'm going to go visit them sometime next year. So yeah, I
okay.
mean, I already have that particular community there. So I will say, okay, cool. My network also kind of helps with this. I think this is a general path to wealth that I would like to take because I take pride in building stuff and like,
Yeah.
you know, so I wanted to move in that direction. So given that I, looked up the startup incubator on campus, I went to them, took a couple of courses on startups in like April of 2023 and like June. And then after that, I was like, there is this pre-accelerator program, which is kind of gets you going, gets your juices flowing in terms of building a startup. And my brother had approached me with an idea with regards to EV charging software.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, this is intriguing. Let me go find out about the space. I wasn't really passionate about the idea, but was really passionate about building a startup. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah.
So I tried to, I basically went to every single EV charging station, started like talking to people, getting surveys, having a chat with people on the road. Most of them told me to, step away.
Yeah.
Uh,
To put that politely,
uh,
yes, yes, yes.
yeah, yes. So I had that, and so like I'd gone through that experience in 2023 and just was doing a lot of startup related stuff. And there was this exchange student. His name is Daniel Lucas. He's now in, I think, Auckland, no, in Christchurch. He works for VXT as a sales representative. He'd come in, he was organizing this networking event for startups out of Incubate,
Oh wow.
and we just started like chatting. He was like, "Hey, I'm looking for some help," and I was like, "Yeah, cool, I'll help you out." I wasn't like fully involved. I was like taking on a lot more than what I had bargained for, and it got. And I just started working with him. We had one more person. Her name is Janelle. So we just started like organizing these events together, and then he kind of like did a little bit of like building business processes around it, like kind of making it a little bit more formalized. um and we got to a point where, oh great, like he'd already talked to Incubate, and we talked to like Sydney Startup Hub. We had organized one event over there, and then I saw the potential for building it with the team, just the three of us, and getting it from zero to, like the sixth or seventh event. That was a major shift for us because we are trying to build something from the ground up, and it's like, it's turned into something which was actually still up and running, and
Yeah.
people were still interested, and there was a little bit of like groundswell around it. uh, Initial early days, we had a lot of repeat people show up, try to build a community along with us, and we were really excited to just go meet people, like, like some cool people every single time.
Mm.
Just getting everybody, keeping up to date on everybody's lives was, and having them support us in our own journeys and be like, oh, what are you doing? I'm still finishing up my master's degree, it's super intense. And they're them motivating me and be like, hey, you know what? It's actually really cool that you're keeping do this. Um and after graduating, this was a perfect tool for me to go and talk to people and say, hey, I'm looking for a job.
Yeah.
uh so that actually worked out pretty well after graduation. I think around for 2 3 months I used this as a tool to I mean, I used the event while organizing it. I, was kind of running it, and I didn't expect it to become what it is at the moment.
Mm.
It was just like we tried something, it worked, and now we want to make this continue, right?
Yeah.
So, and given that Open Coffee is not just something which is a Sydney-based event, it's actually event that happens in multiple cities across the world, including Lisbon, Krakow, some cities in Portugal as well. So it's actually a global thing, and knowing that it's part of a larger global initiative, uh, and that global initiative is also kind of coming to fruition at the moment. So just being part of something which is bigger than Sydney, and something that can have a potential to be something like a global initiative that works across various cities. That's something that like really motivated me to kind of like keep it going, and that all happened what, like this year, which is
Oh, mate.
crazy.
Yeah, oh,
Yeah,
mate. Oh, mate. Look, I mean, I absolutely. Oh, mate. I mean, like when you sort of said there are multiple cities. I mean, like I actually now am sort of hoping that we can actually sort of have like a I don't know, like a worldwide sort of like get together. I don't know whether
yeah,
it's got
yeah,
to be done online or whether we all I don't know how to fund it or whatnot, but I don't know. We all have it in sort of a place in one of the places, and then
yeah,
everyone comes in sort of like a summit or something there. I mean, but one thing there to which because like I've been to about I think my first one was in around September, so I think there's probably been about 5 or 6 since that I've been to, and one of the things there which what I have noticed is um, since I have attended was just meeting the connections,
yeah,
uh, and you're in the same boat as some people when you actually think that you are sort of like alone, or you're probably thinking, oh crap, like all this stuff here and whatnot. But when you go to sort of these events and when you sort of network and when you sort of talk with these sorts of people and whatnot, um, you're sort of almost in the same boat as them. So like they can also relate to you as well, and also just the people there to who you're meeting there to potentially be potential business partners. Someone might have an idea and that you might be able to like, and you could add on to it, and you could start a business up with them, or stuff like that there. And that's something there as to which what I noticed my very first time, because as soon as I actually went to the very first to my very first one, I was a little bit nervous, and I actually sort of thought like, oh crap, I'm a bit of a fish out of water here. But then as soon as I walked out of it, I actually remember actually sending a text message there to my mentor, and I actually said to him, it was a great experience. I loved it. I wasn't a fish out of water. It was like everyone there that you could relate to, and like you could relate to people, and just the people there were also nice as well. Like they were very respectful. You could have a very good conversation with them as well, and that's something there as to which what something there to which what I've noticed.
Yeah, I think that's the thing with the community we're trying to build, right? Like our focus has been how we can help others.
Yep.
And sometimes the best way you can help somebody else is to lend a nice ear
Mm-hmm.
to their problems. And I think that's valuable, you know. Like we kind of underestimate the power of listening to people around us. Just holding space. And I think at times, you know, as startup founders and, you know, people, all of us have stresses in our lives and that we have gone through and we're coming out and, uh, you know, either get laid off a job, trying to find something new. And all of us most people who come into a networking event are on some sort of transition in their lives, you know?
Yeah.
Um, a- and, uh, and just being able to listen to them, being like, hey, here's our network, reach out to us. There are people around you who can possibly help you out. Come to more events. You might meet
Mm.
somebody who's the right person for you. And having that space for people to come into has been a very important aspect of our things. And
Yep.
then secondly is that, so I think I want to explain a little bit more about Open Coffee, the format and how it really impacts it, right?
I
Number
remember the
one,
format. I
yeah,
remember it.
yeah. So first thing is, you know, we come in, everybody introduces themselves in front of the people. It just says, hey, who are you and what do you do? So first thing, it takes away the friction of having to ask the first question that you would generally ask in a networking event, right?
Mm.
So people already know, and some of the really top folks, they will note down your name, what you do, everything. They'll note it down in a small notebook and stuff to keep remembering what you're up to. And second thing is, you know, what do you need? So just being able to articulate what your ask is, either if you're just there to hang out, give some advice, whatever, or hey, are you actively looking for something, some help that you need with, right? Whatnot. And then three is how can you help, which
Yep.
is puts everybody in the mindset of okay, we are there to help somebody else.
Mm.
So they always think in and having it the last instead of how can you help and then what do you need,
Mm.
or flipping it and say oh, how ending with how can you help puts the person in that mindset to go out there and actually, you know, put themselves in the mindset where they're willing to help somebody else.
Mm.
And
And then the last
having
section there where you got to
yeah.
repeat yourself again, because I
Yeah,
actually
but you
remember
have to
that
repeat
one.
your name again. I think that's a
Yes.
thing that Gunnar actually included, like another organizer with me. So people, that's a normal thing. Usually we hand out name tags.
Mm.
I think obviously it's a work in progress. We are events, you know.
Yeah.
So sometimes you have name tags, but then you know people struggle with pronouncing names and stuff, and there's always a friction around that. We're trying to remove as much friction as possible in networking event. And we also, the thing with the networking event is also we try to keep the numbers nice and tight, especially if there's more audience. We kind of ask everybody to keep it very short intros.
Mm.
Um, so just to get everybody the space to be able to introduce themselves and at the same time wrap up and then allow like you know quickly cover the entire group of people. And then a lot of times I'll notice somebody kind of sticking around in a corner being a little shy to network. I'll go talk to them, hey come with me, and then I'll introduce them to somebody else. Or I'll be like, oh, I'll go up to one person and then talk to another person and it'll be like, oh, how can you help them? And then I walk away from the conversation.
Mm. Yeah, I mean,
So
yeah, yeah. I mean, I actually, yeah, like I
yeah.
think that's the very hard part. I think to begin with, you know, that initial first conversation, and I think, like as you said there, you want to make it as very tight knit as possible because even you know when I arrived there a little bit early and you guys are all setting up, you guys actually check as to how many people said that they're going to attend, and then you make sure that you have them like those amount of seats there, not maybe even a couple of extra, but not too many to make it look like that big, but to make it look nice and almost like intimate sort of
Yeah.
if that's the right word to sort of say it, because it makes it seem like, like we're all just part of this tight knit community. I mean, like I do remember like one of the very first few conversations that I did actually have at Open Coffee Sydney. It was with Peter and whatnot, and it was very it was very, very good. And it just sort of like as soon as I got there, I was like, it was very like I felt very relaxed after it there. And yeah, it was like the community aspect of it, I think, is just, it's really, really great. It's it's growing and whatnot. I can't praise it enough.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. I think that's what we're looking for from Open Coffee Sydney, and as we can just hope to be that. And we're trying to build out more stuff around the community aspect of things.
Mm.
I am working with Nathan actually. Nathan Lindsay, shout out to NATO Co-Interactive, really good guys who build your startup like MVPs. So yeah, so Nathan, suggested that we build a tool that helps people in the network find each other. And by looking up, hey, I need help with blah blah blah, and then the list of people pops up on the list. And I think that's a very valuable tool. We're trying to see initially demo it for Sydney and then get it out to the world and see if we can build this open coffee network across the world.
Yeah, mate.
Yeah,
Build
it's
it.
all about scaling, brother. It's all about scaling.
That's that's it, mate.
Yeah.
So what would you sort of just sort of say? I mean, like, lastly, before I just move on to potentially the final segment, but what would you sort of say to sort of someone there who is sort of interested in wanting to sort of work into the startup or the entrepreneurial space? What would and then but thinking of wanting to go to sort of like a networking event like Open Coffee, but they're unsure a bit about it? What would you sort of say to them as a bit of advice or whatnot?
I think first of all, imposter system, imposter syndrome is just a feeling.
Mm.
I don't think it's necessarily true.
Yep.
You can go into a space and just be a sponge.
Yep.
Like, hey, I'm out here. I want to know more about the startup space. I might not have a lot to offer right now, but if you, just give me 2 minutes of your time to talk about what, this thing can, I might be of use for you later,
Mm.
right? Just say, hey, I'm a small little sapling that needs some watering. And just being out there and exposing yourself to the elements and reaching out there and talking to people, I think that's a very valuable thing to do, firstly. So don't be shy, get out there, talk to people, fall on your face like flat a couple of times, pick yourself back up, start again, and have that consistently happen. And I think when that happens, you kind of will end up achieving what you want to, in terms of breaking into the space. In terms of Sydney, there's plenty of really good opportunities that you can be using. Some of the stuff that I have personally gone through is if you're part of a university, you can go into an incubator program as part of university, Macquarie, UTS, UNSW, UCID, all of startup incubators, all have programs to get students involved. They cater to them. They are, the whole mission is to get students into the space of startups. So
Mm.
if you just go out there and talk to the community manager, say you're interested, say you want to give this a shot, say I don't know what I'm doing, I need some help. Yes, that will help. Number two is you can go into StartMate Student Fellowship. If you need some help getting into that, you can come have a chat with me. I can, refer you into it as well. The StartMate Student Fellowship. There is multiple other like fellowship programs or you know sort of like not incubator programs, but like incubator for a human being, like, just getting them into the space. And there's stuff for climate tech as well, especially in the climatic startup space is actually pretty robust in Sydney, weirdly
Yep.
enough. There is that. So there's always a way to get into it. So I would say go shake some hands, go put yourself out there, and then you will come across multiple opportunities where you can pay small amount of fee and they'll launch you into the space and then you're good to go in terms of Sydney. But
Yep.
in general, I think it's a matter of you going out there, shaking some hands, being a sponge, listen to what people have to say, go get coffees with people, talk to them and try to get that groundswell of like you having tried a couple of things. Uh, like, if you have a good idea, just go start it and then try, you know, everything else can kind of come into piece. Like if you just somehow put something together and say, hey, this is my product, this is good, let's just solve the problem. And then try if it's not solving the problem. Like once you have something that sort of has some traction, you can go to any of these startup spaces available or put it out into Twitter and and then have people reach out and see if that works. Mostly outreach matters quite a bit, even though you have diamonds in your closet. If nobody knows you have diamonds in the closet,
Mm.
the diamonds never get appraised, and otherwise it's
Yep.
just diamonds in your closet. Does that make sense? Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, until someone actually, breaks into your house and takes the diamonds and whatnot. So, but
yeah,
but
yeah.
but one more thing there, which I think, as you sort of said there, going out there, shaking hands. But I think one thing as well is you've also got to give it time a little bit. I mean, like you can't just sort of, for example, sort of say, okay, yep, look, I finished that one startup. All right, I'm going to, open coffees next week. I'm going to jump straight into the next one. I'm going to jump straight into my next project. I don't know what it is. I'm going to find someone there and I'm going to jump straight into it. These things here do take a bit of time to actually sort of do because, like it might take you 2 or 3 networking events to sort of like open coffee or like this here to meet the right people, but also to sort of meet the people and for them to just get to know you and you to get to know them to actually sort of see if like, hang on, like I like working, I mean, like this guy seems like he's a nice person, or I think I could be able to work with this person in the future for something. There might be something there. So that's something there to which I think I would probably add on to that there as well is probably time, I mean, like to sort of just give it a bit of time because like you can't just sort of expect losing like going from one job and then going straight into open coffee and then looking or another networking event and then trying to find a business partner or something there like that exact same way or that exact same session.
I do agree with you with that. Like, I think, yes, I mean, relationships aren't built like, you know, immediately. You have to kind of like, especially professional relationships, I would say,
Mm,
like, they take some time. Like, most of the time, you build a professional network. You're like, yo, I work with this guy and this other company. He was a
mm,
rock star there, you know.
yeah.
Like, oh, I tried, my close mate of mine, he worked with this other guy and he brought him on, you know, and then we trialed him for a couple of weeks and then it worked out perfectly. Because like when it comes to startup, it's actually a lot of it depends on complementary skills and complementary working styles,
Yep.
right? Just being able to understand the rhythms of working with another person. And if it clicks, it clicks,
Mm,
right? Right. So, like, even with my own startup, my two co-founders, John Winters and Wayne Baston, right? So, John is, swashbuckling. He likes to go out there, do the marketing, put out the everything. Wayne is like, hey, why are we spending money on this? Right? That balance is there. So some of it gets shot down because
mm,
some of the stuff that John suggests, Wing shuts it down, right?
yeah,
And
exactly.
but that balance keeps the company going because you need one person to be out there and be like swashbuckling and be like, let's go try this. And then you need the other person to be like, hey, why are we spending money on this? We need to be judicious on this. Are we using this thing? Have that balance.
Mm,
So I think once you it's about building that relationship with most people, finding, oh, we have complementary skills. Oh, we have a common vision. Oh, okay. Do we work well together? And then that's why, I think I would say first 6 months to a year of trying out a startup, working with somebody, co-founder, usually tells a lot whether it's gonna work or not.
Yep.
But the fact is that you have to try, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And if you don't try, it's a little difficult. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, mate. I mean, I absolutely completely agree. I mean, like it's almost kind of like, not to use this term. I mean, like, actually, you know what? I'm just going to say it's almost like a marriage. So, so to
Yep.
speak.
Yeah.
Because like that's exactly what it is. I mean, like, if the husband and wife, or the husband, wife and wife, or the partners in the marriage,
Or yeah, let's
yeah,
just keep it at partners, right? Then we
yeah,
won't get the political correct.
I'll just say the partners in the marriage. I'll just say, like the two partners in the marriage, like they both have to sort of complement each other, but they also have to sort of like feed off each other. Like if you have, say, two people there who are both talkers, uh, nobody's really going to potentially get a word in. Whereas if someone is more of the talker and then the other one's more of a listener, then it can also complement each other, but also making sure that they both get their chance to say and a chance to listen there as well. So, like, I definitely do agree with that there, and that's kind of what it sort of looks like to me in regards to with the startup, because it is almost like a marriage, because like if it doesn't work, the divorce or the disillusion is that the business just doesn't work. It just fails.
Another thing which adds on to it, you both sign a contract together. Yeah,
Mm.
that's like putting a ring on it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's actually, to be honest, I actually hadn't thought of that there. Marriage
Yeah.
people. People that get married sign a marriage license when you join up and
Yeah.
start a business with someone. You sign a contract. It's almost like yeah. You know what?
And
Yeah.
there's common assets that you're
Yeah.
building together. You have
Yep.
common assets in the marriage. It's pretty much the same thing. So, yeah, I do think like it does matter who your co-founder is. And it takes time. I mean, I know you yourself are in the journey of like finding something new at the moment. And obviously, I hope like you find somebody that complements your skill set very well and works well with you. And that's kind of what we hope to facilitate through Open Coffee. And I'm always there to help you out if you need a be like, hey, I want to reach out to this person. Happy to connect you with that as well. But I do think like overall, in terms of like finding a startup founder, I do think that matters. Like, to not rush that decision. Have couple of chats. And always have open communication about everything. Um, like that would has a potential to affect either of you.
Yep.
And also your personal life. Like, hey, I'm going through shit time personally. Then it affects the startup, right?
Yep.
So that also does matter, especially in a co-founder relationship. That does matter quite a bit. You
Yeah.
need somebody you can have a professional like relationship with, but there is that aspect of hey, are you looking out for yourself properly? Kind of aspect as well.
Of course. I definitely completely wholeheartedly agree with that there. So, um, yeah, I mean, like I'm also one of those people there that if someone sort of says to me, look, Kieran, if you know this person, I'm more than happy to sort of reach out to them on their behalf. If it's someone there who like I know and say, you know what, like this guy here, like I trust him and he's very good. Yep, I'm more than happy to reach out to this person on your behalf there as well. So, but that there concludes just the main part of the podcast and whatnot there, Rug. I'm going to just sort of say the question there from my last guest, Isaac Adams, where he
Mhm.
said, where he basically sort of said, how do you stay disciplined, and how do you stay focused on that discipline, and what drives you to stay on task?
Okay, I think good question. So for me, I think discipline. it needs to be very tied to a North Star that you believe in.
Yep.
So you need to have conviction over your beliefs first,
Yep.
right? So no matter how much you fight at yourself and keep like telling stuff to yourself that say you should be on track, you should be on track. That doesn't really quite work.
Mm-hmm.
It's a commitment to a higher goal or higher belief that you truly hold within is what discipline, like that's where the source of discipline would come from in the first place.
Yep.
Either if it says, hey, I am gonna maintain the my body is my temple, and I would, as a result, I will treat it with the utmost care and need. That means you're gonna have like a Brad Pitt abs, right?
I probably couldn't
Yeah.
do that as
Oh,
much as I would
who
try.
knows, brother? Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
Anything can happen in a year, right? So that's one
Yep.
thing. So commitment to a higher belief, I think that's very important. And then reiterating that belief to yourself. Say, hey, today I'm a person who is going to be say, who is a good operator, who's going to do blah 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 blah, and then tie it to that particular discipline. Because any discipline that you have, and once it becomes a habit, it becomes a habit. Say, hey, I'm a person who brushes my teeth.
Yep.
you know,
Yeah, that's true.
you're
That's
going to
true.
end up brushing your teeth. And then you have to reward yourself as well. So for whatever behavior you're trying to create for the particular habit, which is tied to the discipline that you want to maintain that habit through discipline. I would say you have to reward yourself for having such belief.
Yep. Yeah.
So, because we have to fight against the system that is within ourselves, that risk reward system within ourselves to say, oh, okay, I've done this task. I've had conviction in my beliefs and I've done this task, right? But
Mm.
I'm not having any reward from that task.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you go for a run and then you come back and eat a bar of chocolate.
Mm.
Yes, but
That's
you have to
kind.
reward yourself in a manner which is in line with your beliefs. Yeah.
That's
So
that's exactly as very similar to how when I was talking to my previous guest with Isaac, not that analogy himself, but yeah, that's something there. I definitely the way is how you just sort of put it there. If you go for a run, you're not gonna sort of want to go and eat a chocolate bar or something there, or I mean, unless it's a healthy chocolate bar or a healthy protein bar or something. But
yeah, come
yeah.
on.
but yeah, I mean, it really does. I think because like he also mentioned when Isaac that uh, motivation is sort of like the short term thing, but the discipline is where like you have to sort of make sure that you stick to it day by day and making sure that it's there. And make sure that you are. In your words, stick to your convictions to actually very much if it's about losing weight or whatever, making sure that you stick to your convictions and do it day by day, and reward yourself to
Yeah.
those convictions.
So I would say, hey, if I want to make a bigger commitment towards being a healthy person, and
Yep.
I'll just say, look, I am a healthy person.
Yep.
Healthy people work out,
Yeah.
right? And even if you don't want to work out on that day,
Mm.
right? Be like, no, 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 I'm a healthy person. Healthy people work out,
Mm. Yeah,
right?
that's true.
Or like whatever. I think that's a very simplistic example. But usually when people want discipline, it's usually around, losing weight or stuff like that. But I would generally say like, hey, I want to be a learned person. I want to be an intelligent person. Hey, I'm going to read one book a week, or like read 20 pages a week,
Yep.
right? Just get to that, commit to that, just read that 20 pages over and over and again. Doesn't mean if you're a slow reader or fast reader, you just have to make the commitment to do your thing. And because, hey, if I don't do it, then I'm not like a smart person, right? Anyone who
Yeah.
buys a book and keeps it in their shelf and doesn't ever read it,
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
but you're not gonna. I mean, just by having the book there doesn't mean you're gonna. Doesn't mean that you've learned anything because the book's on the shelf. You haven't read it. So yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean that sort of concludes that part of the podcast, mate. I'll ask you to say what question do you want to ask my next guest, there, mate. It can be sort of any sort of question that you sort of would like there, mate. More than happy for you to ask any type of question there, mate.
So yeah, I mean, I've kind of like I'm definitely very inspired by the AI space, but
Yep.
so I'm gonna ask a question related to that in terms of what is the most human experience that you have had with AI? I think that's a very like when did you realize like AI is very more human than you think it is that question that I want to ask the next guys.
What is the most human experience you've had with an AI? Oh,
Yeah,
damn, that is a very
everyone.
that is a very, very interesting question, to be honest. I mean, it kind of just sort of depends because I mean, like, there are some AIs there that can actually, it's like you're almost talking to a person at times. But then, I mean, wow.
Yeah, you're
Wow.
gonna have fun with your next guest, yeah?
Yeah, they are. They are. They are. I mean, yes, I actually can't wait for that there. But
Yeah.
anyway, that there is actually going to get me thinking now. Actually, I'm probably going to be thinking a little bit more after that there. But that there concludes this episode of the podcast. Raghav, thanks again for agreeing to come on, and I'll see you. I'll speak to you soon, there, mate, and I'll see you at the next Open Coffee Sydney.
Yeah, thanks, Karen. This was a really lovely time. Thank you so much.